Hello Flosstube. I am back for the monthly video from Ali's Stitching Studio, I should say. All about cross stitching, we're here to discuss, and a little bit of rug making. Now, let me tell you a funny story. I actually brought a microphone last month. Now, I've been looking forward to filming today, thinking I can use the microphone. Here's the microphone. Now, those of you who know me know I'm a complete technophobe. I thought this was a plug-in thing and it's done. No, I've got to screw around on recordings and settings. I don't know how to do that. So I have a microphone. The microphone is not working. All right, I can't set this thing up by myself. So I'm hoping I don't sound like I'm yelling, but I would like you to get a proper level of my voice, because that's why I brought the microphone. There's been sound issues with you not hearing things properly. So I apologise. I thought we were on the right path. I thought we could just plug it in and you'd hear me, but microphone versus no microphone is of zero difference. I've just done about 10 outtakes, which if I wanted to edit, I would put together, but all the language, some of it was fruity towards the last few outtakes. I got so frustrated. I've read the book. I need to do a lot of hoo-ha in the background on the computer, and I don't know how to do that. So when one of my children is present and willing and able, they can set that configuration up for me, and next video, we'll have a microphone. All that to say is I hope you can hear what I'm saying, and if not, just watch. WIPGO 2022. So last month was February, and that was the second month, of course, for everybody, and two projects that presented themselves in the numbers. Can't remember the numbers now, but my first two projects for February. I didn't grab the pattern. Anyway, it is the Courtney Collection Peacock chart, and I had 3 pages on this when the month started, and then I've completed another 3. I had those, I think. So I now have 6 pages on this chart done, and I think it's a 14-page chart. So that is because some of those pages are without many stitches on them at all. So I think we can say I'm roughly halfway on this now. It's just plain black DMC, and it's on a 16 count like a dove grey. But that's a lovely chart. It's Courtney Collection Peacock. The chart was a gift from Olivia and Elena, and this is just such a meditative project. I love it, and this is, we've got quite a ways to go. But that is going to I'm going to make it into a quilted wall hanging because it's way too big to frame. So that will go on my peacock wall when the time comes. But I'd love to think I can possibly get that finished this year. It does call my name a bit. I do really enjoy it. So that might seem boring to some people, but I do quite like it. And the other one for February, that was called, so far with WIPGO, I decided to do it this year for the very first time. I've been following it for the 2 or 3 years it's been going, but I've got a lot of WIPs now. I think I sit at about 60 or 70 WIPs, and a lot of them don't get touched from year to year. And I knew watching WIP go and how it all worked that it might be a really successful program for me to actually put projects in there that I want to get to and I just, for whatever reason, don't make myself get to. So it has been very successful for me. I've had my finishes already into the year in January. But this chart, I did not have the great chunk of stitching on it that I have had on the other WIPGO projects, but that's fine. I'm not a seasonal stitcher, so I'm not willing to blame it's not Christmas for the reason that I didn't engage with this one. I got stuck around here on this browns, and I just mustn't have been, I should have made myself come up here into the holly, because that's what I was excited to stitch, and I could have got some greens in. And I might come back to it because I feel like I really shortchanged this project in February. The way I'm doing my whip go is 2 projects a month. So I go halfway through the month on the first one. If I can slam into a finish, I do. And then I pick up the second one for the back half of the month. So it's just a very simple equation of splitting the month in 2, right? Simplistic, don't have to think about it. So I did do... So this is the whole, it's Mirrors Santa, and he's on a vintage country mocha, 32 count linen by the looks of it. So I did stitch this time. I did stitch his white glove and the purple here and come through here. I just got bogged down, and I really at least wanted to finish all of this bottom part and come through up and start, or even put the borders up all the way up to the top, or starting with some holly here, and I just didn't. So I feel like I need to go back to this and give it more of a go than what I did. Lovely vibrant colours. I do love this piece, and I would love to have it finished for Christmas this year, but it's not going to get done at that pace. I do stitch for 2 or 3 hours a day, so that should have been quite... I would have expected myself to finish all of that, so the bottom was all done minus the bees, and I would have expected to see me come up on one of these with the holly to the full extent of the top. But I didn't get anywhere near that goal because I was waylaid with a new one. But anyway, as I said, no drama. These are only fun things, but I think I'll go back to that. I'm not going to leave that because it feels like I've let myself down when I've sort of hit whip go with a sprint and done really well and been really proud of my advancement on the projects that I've chosen, and this poor little Mirror Santa. Here's one of the bags I made. That was a chart from Gift of Stitching that I used Country Cottage threads in, a variegated one, and a DMC green on a panel, and then I've just made a bag out of it. And one of the beautiful zipper pulls from Creative Curator on Instagram. She's amazing. Look at this chainmail. Where's my camera? Chainmail and a little dangly leaf. Kerry, she's amazing. Check out her work. Anyway, so they were my 2 whip go numbers for last month. Don't ask me the actual numbers. If you're participating, you know what they are. And then I had this little one that I'd been working on, and I finished it. And this was a Sheena Rogers piece that I brought from Lisa Bergen. It was a kit. She was selling some things, and it's the little October Flower of the Month Marigold, and it was a kit, so it came with the backing sort of velvet. This was such an enjoyable stitch. Really, really enjoyable. And I mean, who would have put those colours together? Really not me. You've got a pale pink, a brown, you've got like a Dutch blue, and you've got bright royal blues and bright, almost a fluorescent green. It's a very unusual combination of colours, but geez, it's a fantastic look. And my mother's born in October, so when I finished this, I thought, I knew I wanted to make it into this little cushion, because it's only a 10 centimetre cushion. It would look lovely on display on like a shelf or a bookcase. So I thought, I'm going to give it to my mother, and I didn't want to wait until October. So I gave it to her yesterday, and she loves it. So I've pried it out of her hands to show on the video today, and she will get it back in a minute. So there we are. That's Sheena Rogers something or other. mini cushion collection, and it's the October one. I'm assuming she did one per month. So thank you, Lisa. There it is, all finished. If you're watching this, I loved it. I loved every stitch. It was very, very enjoyable. That's full coverage. There's not one missing stitch on that. It's all just totally enjoyable. And when I got my order in from 1884 Stitchery from McKenna, one of the charts in there that I showed on Instagram was Debbie Patrick's Beringer Winery, and Jay saw it from Jay's X Stitch and said, "Oh, that's one of my unicorns. You know, does she have more charts?" So I said, "Honey, I'll stitch it. You can have my copy. I don't need the copy once I've stitched it." So I started on this, and I've had a finish on it. I did slam through, I showed this to you last time, I slammed through the cross stitching because it's not one of her bigger ones, although they are really relatively similar sizes, and I just had to do the back stitching, but it's all done now, completely finished, full stop, completely finished. So finished in around a month's time. So this probably took a little bit away from the Santa, the little patchwork cushion probably took away from the Santa a little bit in time. But look at this beautiful building, Beringer Winery. I adore it. Really, really gorgeous piece. And you can see the back stitching and just how magnificent it is in a Debbie Patrick chart. Can be painful to do at times, but look at the magnificent detail. See, you've got the bricks that are just on the lower level here and up the chimney. No bricks here. We've got tiles across all the roof structures, all the roofing. We've got brickwork in amongst the garden beds. Either side of these stone, you've got the stairs and the stone like Plymouths, and you've got the topiary trees. Her attention to architectural detail is stunning. I love it. And as you all know, I've got many more Debbie Patricks to get through. So this chart will hotfoot itself down to New South Wales for Jay next week. I'll post this off. And she can have a go at it some stage. So there you go, honey. All finished. Absolutely loved it. Just got to have a think about framing or what I do with that. I think I will frame and hang it in the house. I just enjoyed every stitch on that. Loved it. And I loved it's just an Aida cloth that I threw in a bucket of black dye. I had black dye in the laundry dyeing my daughter's hairdressing clothing. And it's come up, was just white, and it's come up like a grey with a spackled sort of almost like a sky. Putting it on a coloured fabrics really made that design jump out, so it's made me think about putting more Debbie Patricks on coloured to a degree, because I've just done ones on white so far, so we'll look at that. So Debbie Patrick's house, Sheena Rogers' little cushion. What does that mean? Ali's got a rule this year, 2 finishes, I can have 1 start. It's silly, I know. I don't know how many new starts at the back end of last year with all the peacock stitching I was doing, but anyway, that's fine. We're enjoying our stash. Got many thousands of other projects to choose from in patterns and kits. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so I did do some surveys with some friends, and one of them chose this. So this was the new start I went with. Northern Expressions Needlework Serenity. This was a kit I picked up from Carissa years ago in Canada, who had a stash sale, and I was lucky enough it came with the dinky dye threads. Beautiful, beautiful threads in. So it's called Serenity. So maybe these dinky dye threads were dyed for that actual chart. Very vibrant. Now, in this chart, we have a number of things going on, which I haven't got to yet. It does recommend that you do all your cross-stitching first, so I've started that. So we've got things like raised stitches, elongated, open Jessica triangles, open Jessica triangle, round Jessica stitch, square Jessica stitch, raised stitch, and then you just your normal cross stitch, right? So I thought, wacky do, I'm just going to jump in. I've just put it on a white linen, Belfast linen, 32 count. I'll just get in, what's the top? That's the top there. And just start stitching, right? So we started stitching all the crosses, cross stitching. And then I thought, oh, well, I'll better find out about these specialties and see if I can get going on these specialty stitches now. But they do recommend that you get the beads in first, because sometimes the specialty stitches are kind of wrapped around the beads and it's going to be quite hard to go in retrospectively and put the beads on once your stitches are in place, your specialty stitches. But I wish I had read that before I started, because they talk about in this thread cutting the thread, although I don't think I would, cutting the thread at the exact place, because it's variegated at a certain spot, so you got the blue. So when you do your spirals, it goes from the green, comes around, and it ends on a light blue. So every time you stitch the spirals, you start like with the darker green and you go around to the light blue. So you've got to cut all your skeins up, and I'm like, so mine is probably going to look a little bit more random because it is just using that beautiful thread as it comes off. Obviously, because it's so variegated, I can't use a loop start. I need to have two pieces together so it all matches up perfectly. And I'm stitching, I can't stitch the Danish method, which is what I normally do. I just stitch in the English, so stitch by stitch. But I think it is still going to be an absolutely stunning design. I just came to a standstill because it was the end of February and the March numbers had been called for Whip Go, and I thought, this is so engrossing. I could stay on this for another, however long. I'm sourcing the beads from Teresa at Daisy Chain Stitcher. Hopefully you can get the beads for me. So it's a bead pack. So there's Swarovski crystals and checked glass beads and Mill Hill beads. So hopefully I can get a bead pack. But that is going to be stunning. Absolutely beautiful. It's fun. It stitches up really quickly and it's just engaging. And when I saw this and brought it from Carissa a couple of years ago, I thought of Mika from Holland, and she commented and said, oh, I love those colours. I said, I know you do. And I think of you when I stitch it, because I actually thought of her when I brought the kit a couple of years ago, because she's just has got that blue and green colourway so down pat with everything that she stitches. That's Darling Bluebell on Instagram and YouTube. So there we are. That's my start. I don't even know if that's around the right way yet, but you get the idea. And there's big sort of Jessica stitches in here that I'd love to get into, but yeah, they suggest to put the beads in first and then your stitching sort of will in points lap around it. So I'm really excited to get some beads into this. So when the beads do come, I think I'm going to have to start like madly cross stitching and beading to get into it, because I really had to pull myself away from this project to get on with other things, because I could have just kept going with that. Absolutely loved it. And this is my very first Northern Needlework, Northern Expressions needlework chart. Many years ago, the rainbow band, twisted band sampler thing was big, and they've gone through different ones that have been popular, but I haven't seen much from them lately. I don't know if they've got new releases always coming through. But there's some interesting things going on there, and I'm really quite excited to give them a go. Give them a go and see what happens. I mean, I don't do a good job. I'm probably the only person in the house that's going to be looking at it, as I said on the last video. It doesn't matter. And you people here. Okay, so that was my Northern Expressions Serenity. That was my new start because I had two finishes. Then we hit March and two numbers were called. Don't ask me what the actual numbers were, but these are the two projects attached to my chart. So the first one, now I can't explain this. You've probably heard me talking about this in the past. I don't know why this chart doesn't resonate with me anymore. It's Papillon Creations Saint Sophia, and it's in the Greek Empire colorway. So they had all these colorways, and this was back at a craft show in Brisbane, where our lovely lady Naomi ran a dye company of fabric, dyed her own fabrics, called Stitches and Spice. And if you're an Australian stitcher who's been around for a long time, you would very much know Stitches and Spice. And she always had the beautiful mirabilia charts and the lovely ladies on her hand-dyed fabrics and different companies like this. And at this show I went to with my friend Jo, we'd go every 6 months to craft shows together. I decided, I'm going to buy the whole kit and caboodle. So I brought the chart from her, the colourways of the thread, and they were in Vicky Clayton hand-dyed silk thread. So we've got all of her colours here, like a rust brown, a green, a light green. Now, in the past, my hands have really struggled with working with silk. These are so old now that the actual wording is fading on it. Vicky Clayton. It must be 20 years ago I brought this. 2006 the chart came out, so not quite. So I'm guessing this chart was new when she had this at the store. So I've got all the lovely Vicky Clayton threads, and I've put the symbol onto the little bags. So there's only 4. There's only 6 colours in this. And for some reason over the years, I pull this out and I can only get a couple of days out of myself on this. And this project's a stitchy bug killer every single time. I don't know why. I can't seem to work out why. When like you can imagine, I brought this Papillon Creations chart, I brought the Vicky Clayton threads, and I brought the Stitches and Spice hand-dyed linen. This project all up cost me, I think it was about $100. At the time, it's a lot of money for a project. I'm like, why aren't I engaged with this? The colours perfectly suit my house. So I've worked on this periodically. When I picked this up in Whipgo, I had a little bit over this side, and I have come and managed to work and done quite a lot in this quadrant, because it breaks up around the diamond. So I've done the whole inner thing. So we've got the quadrants either side. So I've got one quadrant finished, and I'm nearly finished the second one. So I am now. Whipgo has been so successful for me, apart from the Santa, but it's making me, because in my head, I need to work on this till the 15th of this month. So I sit down to it. So instead of flapping around and looking at Insta and, what's on Facebook? Also, I'm binge watching Elementary, which I love. I love Elementary. I'm always a day late and $1 short. I've just discovered it. I'm up to season 3 and I'm loving it. Loving it. Anyway, so this project reminds me of Elementary. But I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. I've broken through that window that's been there on this project for 10 years, if not 15 years, of just not wanting to work on it. And it's beautiful fabric. Stitches and Spice fabric is beautiful. I wish she used to have tables of it, and at the time, I wasn't working and the babies were little, and I can just remember not spending the money on the dearer cross-stitch supplies. I was always using the cheaper cross-stitch supplies, and I wish now I had brought her whole table up, because she had beautiful fabric. Beautiful. It's like a buttercup yellow. It's gorgeous. So I will get this piece framed, and whatever I can save off, because that's the bottom bit there. So that's a chunk of fabric there I'll be able to use for something. I'm not going to waste a millimetre of this fabric. I'm going to use it for whatever I can. It's absolutely stunning. So there we are, St. Sophia, Papillon's Creations. I've broken through the, the blind spot I had on this project, not making any grand announcements on what I will finish here in this sort of 2-week period. I don't know. I'm just really, really enjoying it. And to make matters even better, my friend Joe piped up on Insta the other day and said our mutual friend who has since passed, a lovely lady by the name of Katerina, loved this project of mine. So I am using that as my inspiration to go forward. So there we are, St. Sophia Papillon's Creations is steaming forward. So let's see, I'll show you next month. I'm aiming to film at the beginning of the month every month, so you can see what's happened in WhipGo the month before, and if I've had 2 finishes, I'll have a new start and all that good stuff. So very, very proud of myself for breaking through that barrier. And the second piece that's going to get a go this month at the end of the month, and I haven't touched it yet obviously, is a full coverage piece. And I have put quite a few full coverages on the WhipGo board because I need to get on with them. So this is Artis' Wartime Gathering by Gino Peoples. I have got a chunk of this done. Now I want to say I'm about halfway on this project. I've come down here and I've come across to the dresses. I haven't done the purple dress, I'm about here. And there's a bit missing in between, but I've got the most of the mansion to do. I have done it on 18 count Aida, which is really my preferred. Even as I get older, I might even change the 18 count to 16 count as my eyes aren't fantastic anymore. But there we go. So I've got another panel to go over here and up and around. So I'd have to be close to halfway. Now the way I do my full coverages, I don't finish an absolute full page and then move to the next one. I'll get about 3/4 of it done, like quite a lot of it done, and then I start to get a bit restless and itchy and I want to move on to the next page. So I'll do some stitches in here, and if that symbol then is some of the symbols left in the page before, I'll go back. So then I'm working 2 pages. Same thing, I'll get this one done 3/4, and then I'm like itchy fingers, want to go to the next page. And then so when I do a symbol on here, I'm looking to see if it's on those pages as well. So I'm working 3 pages at a time. So it's like extreme cross country. I don't park threads or anything, but through just highlight, because I do paper and a pencil, I don't do digital stuff, it's very easy to do this technique. So you can see here, I haven't completely finished that page and I've moved across and forward. So when I do this background of all the big mansion, a lot of these similar colours are going to be there. So I could easily work 2 or 3 pages at a time and just keep the one thread on my needle. So I'm saving time but not constantly changing my threads, and just slam through a symbol, which would be easy to do on Pattern Keeper, I believe, because it's all highlighted, but I don't do Pattern Keeper. But there you go. So I am really looking forward to full coverage, because I had a look on my Instagram account yesterday to be able to mention this to you. I last worked on a full coverage in August last year, which was Mystic Stitch Peacocks, when I started that for the Peacock, Year of the Peacock. So I haven't done full coverage, although you would argue the little cushion I just did. You could argue the Santa, Mirror Santa. I mean, I work on things that are wall-to-wall coverage, but not technically full coverage. And clearly, I mean, that's a lot of stitching. It's all dense. It's not motifs or samplers or anything. That's wall-to-wall stitching. So you might argue that's full coverage in a way. But this is the full coverage for the other end of March for me, and I'm really, really looking forward to doing it. I'm really looking forward to doing it. It's going to be like visiting an old friend. No, I didn't write. So one of my goals now going forward when I start a new project is just to write on the front of the bloody pattern the date I started. I mean, it's a bit of paper. It takes you 1 second to do that. Why? I used to do this all the time. I haven't done it. So I will write on this the date I started it. I don't know why. It's just a reference to have a bit of an understanding because I've got 12 baskets over there of whips and kitted things. I'm not going to remember when I started stuff. I mean, I'm just not. So, looking forward to this very much, getting back into that. So that'll be the back half of March. Now, this week I had another finish of something that has been sitting around in my craft room for I don't know how long. A long, 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 long time. So, years ago, excuse me, I need a drink. Just having a sparkling water with mango. These are quite nice. I quite like them. Okay, so years and years ago I came across like braided rugs, plaited rugs, like with a recycling element. That's what interested me. I love upcycling. I love upcycling old furniture, painting it, giving it a new lease of life. And if you've followed my Instagram page, you've seen like things that I repurpose, and I love it. I think everyone needs to repurpose stuff and make the world go round. And if we brought less new stuff and repurposed and recycled and all that good stuff. Anyway, so years ago I made a couple of rag rugs for my daughters. They were pinks. One was pink, black and white. Excuse me. One was pink and blue, and that was fine when they were small. They were no longer using them or liked them for their colourways in their rooms, so they've gone on to a friend. But I decided I'd like, because it's a good craft to have, because basically all you're doing is plaiting, right? You are plaiting 3 lengths of fabric together. And then you're plaiting, and then you're plaiting, and then you're plaiting, and then you're plaiting. These are my leftovers. I made a rug for my dog. Now I was going to make and add this and do more strips that I've got here into a bigger rug for this room in here, because you can see I've got green walls and I've got plants and I've got like, it's quite eclectic in here. I've got a lot of secondhand stuff that's just ends up in here, but that rug would look quite good on the floor in here. But I cannot make myself braid anything else. I just cannot. This project has been, sorry, that's my phone. This project has been on the boil. I can remember sitting around the bonfire braiding this when COVID first started, and I had it on the go for probably a year or two then. So it's probably 3 to 4 years old. So I looked at the dog, and she needed a new little rug in the lounge room. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to make this rug a nice round rug for her, as big as it goes. And here we are. So this is hot off the press yesterday. And this is in my lounge room, and you can see the lovely textured look. It's beautiful. Now, years ago, I wanted to buy some colonial American, I think you call them colonial rugs. And there was importers here, and the price on those rugs, outlandish. I really wanted them on wooden floors, and I could just picture they'd look amazing in my country house, but I could not make myself pay that money. And then somewhere I saw how to make these, and I went, oh, that's pretty well the same thing. I can make that rug. Why am I paying like $1,000? Because it's Australia. I've got to get the thing to me. So that was where I think my love of making these for myself came, because it was an outrageous amount of money for me to get what? I don't think they were originally antiques, but it was, I don't even know if they were handmade. They were just extremely expensive. Anyway, so it pushed me to learn how to do it myself. And Andrea has asked me to give her a tutorial on this. Now, I remember when I had my channel last time, I was making the rugs then, and I actually showed you quickly. So I'm going to quickly talk about this now. If you're not interested in rag rugs, please, goodbye. Thank you for watching the cross stitch. But very, very quickly, Andrea, and anyone else who's interested, you can use any fabric. Now you can see here, this is a sheer fabric, right? See how sheer it is? What I will say to you, don't use your $25 a metre quilting cotton. Your rug probably will cost you $1,000. Don't do that. Don't do that. Use old sheets, use old clothes, use fabric you've brought at the op shop that were old sheets that were cheap. Use sheets that someone's given you. Use an old tablecloth. So this is like I don't even know what fabric you'd call that. It's very thicker and it's got that coming off. That's fine. I'll talk about that in a minute. So that's all that I've got left here now, the reds and the greens. But you can see in here, that's that green there. And that red, every time it shows up in this quilt, is that sheer thin red. Now, would you believe that? Look how thin and sheer that is. You think, I can't put that into a rug. Look at it. It's hardy. It'll be fine, but it is see-through. So you'll be surprised about what fabric you can actually put into a rag rug. And look at the magnificent look of it. So all you are doing are plaiting 3 pieces of fabric together like you plait hair. Most women have plaited hair before in their lives. But now I saw this online somewhere, but I also modified things myself. This far down the track, because I started rag rugging, I want to say 10 years ago, I cannot remember what I saw and what I've modified myself. So please, I'm not saying this is all my original idea, it's not, but I can't remember the particulars of what's mine and what I saw, not this far down the track. So just know this is what I do now. Some of it's mine, some of it's someone else's, I can't remember. Obviously, you're not going to have strips of fabric that are long enough to do the whole thing. So they have to be joined together. So how do you join those together without knots? Because you don't want big fat knots sitting in your work every sort of metre or so, right? You can't have that. So you get the end of your thing, right? All you do is fold it over just a little bit, see? And you get your good pair of scissors and cut it. So there is now a hole. Now you'll see that hole, I've left, I don't know, half an inch or so, right? You want to, so that's why I folded it over and made sure you don't want it to go all the way to the end. You want it, so that's a little bit of an insurance policy, right? So I have cut my strips with a rotary cutter. They're 1.5 inches, right? You could do thicker if you want, but they'll make thicker braids. And I just cut the lengths of whatever. They're quite long. It doesn't matter. And then you need to do one strip, one length. You need to do both of your holes at the same time, all right? So we do the other one. And there's no science there. That can be a bit further down if you want. It doesn't matter. Just cut the hole. This is the other piece that we're going to plait together. I haven't got a hole in this yet. Fold it over. Do a little snip. Make sure you're not right at the end. So you've got a little bit of wriggle room there at the top. We get to the other end. Put a hole in there. Now, you want your strips to be joined together, right? So you put one, it goes through the hole, and you just tie it. Just tie it in a knot. Just tie it together into a knot. And that is that joined together. It's strong. You can see me doing this, right? Because we've left a half an inch or so between the hole and where you've joined it, you can do that. Now that's a little bit of a knot, but it's strengthened because the hole is away from the end of the piece. Now you might think, oh my God, look how messy that is. I can guarantee you that's exactly what my joins all look like in that rug you just saw. 100%. Now, you would have 3 pieces, and I just tied them. I don't know where the end of this is. Where is the end of this piece? You just start with a knot. You just knot three together. Just tighten a knot at the start. 3 pieces of strips, tie them in a knot to start, and I found it good to anchor it under a brick or put it between your knees. You might sit up and put it between your knees and just start plaiting. Plait, 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 plait. And that's where you end up. You have to have a bag, right? A bag to put your plait in because it gets pretty big. And you just plait. You plait mindlessly sitting in the garden talking to your husband. You plait mindlessly watching TV. You take your plait to softball practice. You take your plait, it's like a living creature, right? You take it everywhere you go because you need to make quite a lot of plait, right? You just keep plaiting and plaiting and plaiting. And look, it is mindless. There you go. That's the start of my plait. I just tied 3 pieces together and off I went. I started plaiting, and I always had a safety pin with me because if I'm getting low on one of my strips, I have to add a strip like I just showed you adding a strip. You cut a piece, put a safety pin in there. It stops the plait from unraveling. Go and tie your little bit onto the end here and go again, and you just see all that. You might think, my Lord, Ali, how can you make a rug out of something so messy? It's fraying like that. What's going on? I can guarantee you this is exactly what my other one looked like, that other 2 look like that I made with the kids' stuff. They've been through the washing machine many times and they're absolutely fine. This is for the dog. This will go through the washing machine when it needs to. And you can see the lovely sort of country colonial look that this has. Now, obviously, you can manipulate this. You could make this and do it only in 3 colours. You know, you might want black, white, and red for more of a modern look in the room. But again, I would say to you, don't go and buy $25 a metre fabric because you need to use 1.5 inch strips, and this will be $1,000 rug, and that's not the idea. This rug and the texture and the look of it is about recycling. It's about upcycling. Now, I'm not going to bore you with stats. I'd have to look them up anyway, but the fabric industry wastes so much fabric, and there really is an environmental movement to minimize the waste of fabric. You can find scrap fabric everywhere. You can find it in the clothes that you throw out that you don't want. I wouldn't use denim. Denim's too thick, I think. Unless you had some of that denim blend, like they blend it with poly cotton stuff for like a very stretched denim, you might get away with it. So it's not technically a denim. I wouldn't use a true denim in something like this. It's going to be very thick. So these are all plaits. So how does this become a rug? How does it become a rug? So I've done circles, and I was kicking myself because when I started this yesterday, I thought to myself, I'm going to do an oval, and I had my music going, right? I was listening to a bit of Dua Lipa, and I was off with the fairies, and I just started doing a circle without thinking. I went, oh bugger, it's sewing down now. It doesn't matter if the dog has a circle rug or a rectangle or an oval rug, but the ones I've done in the past were circles, so I've just started doing a circle without thinking. The batting, I've used different things. I think I had more soft and padded, like crushed velvet or something on the back of one. This is an old sheet. It's just an old king size sheet. It's the top sheet, the bottom sheet had ripped, threw it out. So it's just sewn down. You can see I've just done a straight stitch. I didn't change the length. I stitched on 2.7. I kept it at that. And all you're doing is sewing down through the center of that braid, roughly. Again, perfection isn't what is happening here. It's such a forgiving craft. You are stitching down the center of that braid, right? My sewing machine handles it. I can't imagine you'd have a problem. So all you do to start a circle one is you start in the center. And I just sewed across that little start bit that I had. I cut off the knot because obviously you don't want a fat knot in the center. So you need to sew down that plait so it's secured. And then you start to wind it quite tight. And then you're getting out and out. Now the only thing to be mindful on in this, see, I just have to go and cut some of that off. Some of those bigger pieces I'll cut off. Like that. I'll go along. I've just finished this yesterday. I haven't been able to get the dog off it. She loves it. So, yes, as I said, you sew down the center of the plait. And if you end up over here, it's forgiving, it doesn't matter. I have seen some of these rag rugs where people go diagonal down the plait. I just aim for the center. It's really not matter. It doesn't matter. What you do want though is the backing fabric to be flat. So because you're going around in the circle on your machine, you don't want your sheet or whatever you're using underneath to be all ruffled up because you're going to have a mess on the back and it's going to be, you want it to be flat. So you can see here I've just gone round and round and round. You can see the tail of the story, round and round and round and round and round and round and round. I had a lovely afternoon yesterday doing this. And you just stop where you stop. I just cut a piece of fabric that was square and I just stopped here. I probably need to tidy that up a bit. And I just went over it to end it. And all you do is cut underneath, cut it out so there's no excess backing sticking over the front of the rug. And that's a rag rug. It's not technically difficult. It is very physically, it's easy to do, but it's just doing the plaits. There's a lot of plaiting to do and it really needs to be something you put aside to do. If you go camping, if you're at kids' activities, if you've got downtime and you just want a brainless thing to do that doesn't involve looking at a chart, and this is perfect for that. It's absolutely perfect. It's recycling. It's perfect for that. Oh, I meant to tell you. So this is how you start a round run, right? This is about a meter round. If you want to start an oval, you would start your plaits, you'd start it and you might go a foot, or maybe 20 centimetres. And you'd go like this, and then you'd start building and you'd build it out like that, right? So your oval's going to get bigger and become an oval. So I've just started a round one because it suits my dog. If you want to see images of it, it's on Instagram. She loves it. Her name's Macy. This is Macy's rug. So that's rag rugging. I do love this, and definitely I will make more in the future. Don't use your quilting cotton. Save things. Use old, just cut strips out of, if you've got old dresses. I've got some vintage dresses that were my grandmother's that I'm contemplating doing some plaiting with because they're really quite leery and but they're original vintage dresses from the 60s, so that might make some of you cringe. She was very small, it's like a size 6, so I'm never going to fit into them. So anyway, I'll contemplate what I'm going to do with those dresses. They're in limbo in a cupboard at the moment. But that is my little crafting adventure. I haven't really been doing too much junk journaling this month. I've got it sitting over there. I've done a couple of pages, but not much, so I'll have to get back into that. I feel like I've cleared the air a little bit by getting this rag rug done, because this has been hanging around for about 4 years. So yeah, so you just want to make sure when you sew it down that you do make sure that they are butted together. You don't want a big, dirty, big gap, that's like that. They're all butted together. So make sure they're butted together tight, and you're just sewing down. But as I said, I have even seen it online where people then have gone and sewn. I didn't want to go to the bother of that. I think it looks lovely as is. It's got that lovely upcycling country vibe, which is just totally my thing. So you might see that in, black and white in a more monochrome environment, if that's what your house looks like, and you want a little bit of a textured sort of a feel in some textiles around your house. So anyway, excuse me. That's it from me. I better go. It's nearly dinner time. Thank you for watching Ali's Stitching Studio. Follow me on Instagram. Tell your friends, and come and watch my next video. Hopefully I'll have more than 2 of you watching what I'm doing next time. And hopefully I can get my microphone sorted so I don't feel I need to yell at you all. So I apologise if this comes across as I'm yelling. I'm just trying to make sure that you can actually hear what I'm saying. Thank you to everyone who posts on Instagram and makes Flosstube videos. You've been good company in the last month. I've enjoyed... excuse me, I've got the air conditioning on. It really needs to go off now. I've enjoyed watching you all, and obviously it's very exciting to see what's coming up at the Nashville markets. That's on right now. That just started. I so wish I could go and have a look. I've seen a lot of the new stuff coming, and it's exciting, but I have got so much stuff here. There's probably 6 designs I've seen that I feel like I need right now, but I'll wait and see if one of my special Teresa from Daisy Chain gets some things in, and I'll probably pounce on her site. But other than that, I'm not desperate for anything. I've got a world of stuff to get on with, as you'll see as the year progresses and I go through my Whitco board. So happy stitching to you all. Best of luck, and take care, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Happy stitching, people. Bye.